So wouldn't have, not everybody will be present in the room. I brought along the Dell's map and the other things, and pictures of the chapel and Wilson and whatnot. I don't have them now. How appropriate would be pass those around the way. So, we'll see how people deal with it.
For live on YouTube. Closed caption. Free live on YouTube.
Reads the way some of my emails do when I know what I put in there until I reread them when they're sent back to me. It's,
Does anybody have any regrets?
We should have court moving. Based off of the acceptances. Everybody's trying to find a way in. See if anybody sent in regrets. I had a meeting from 11 to 12, so I came straight here. There's two that have accepted it. Hopefully they're joining in a minute.
I'm not sure if you can see my name at the bottom of my avatar.
Stephanie, is that you?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can see you all right. Yeah, 'cause right now,
Okay, I'm seeing okay.
Salvatore, Sarah, Stephanie, and Patricia are via Zoom, and then there's Harry's a guest, and Kelly and Nicole are in the meeting room with me. So we're just waiting for one more to join.
Sorry,
That's okay.
people are chatting me up in the virtual.
Perfect.
Perfect. So I will call this meeting to order at 12:07. I acknowledge with respect that we are in Robertson Huron Treaty territory, that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Boadi. Boadi is a home of the Garden River First Nations, Batchewana First Nations, and the historic Métis. Now we will start off with the adoption of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
Yeah.
And are there any changes? And if not, can I have a motion to adopt? Okay, so Angela is the mover and a seconder, Kelly. Oh, sorry. Did you in time there? Okay. All right, any declarations of pecuniary interest? Sarah,
I have one. I submitted it to Virginia.
okay, perfect.
It was with regards to agenda item 85.3. Sarah is employed by Oklahoma University.
Okay. All right, now the adoption of the agenda. Is everyone okay with the agenda? Any additions, changes? If not, can I have a motion to adopt?
I can adopt. Stephanie here.
And seconded by Angela. All right, so moving on to business arising. We had the heritage property tax rebate inspections. So you can see they are in the attached. There was also a whole bunch of photos. Virginia only included a few in the package, but you would have also received the email that included a whole bunch more photos that show a lot more of the different details. And you can also see the notes there. So for the most part, they were recommended. But there are some of them that I did say, I think it was pretty much only 69 church that if this year they really didn't address some of those large issues that it would not be addressed, because it does seem they're doing some work on it. But they are not tackling the really prominent issues with which is the one staircase. And so that is a big issue that even Frank brought forward. So
just as a side note, the stairs are in process.
Oh.
I finished the drawings just a few months ago, so
Okay.
they are getting them. They're just in process.
Yeah. Okay,
So they're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming.
So yeah, so you can see, does anybody have any questions about the properties? Oh, actually, one that I just noticed here, I didn't recommend the adoption for the Upton. Because we didn't recommend it last year. 115 Upton on page 8 or 50, 14.
Yeah, I do know they were trying to get some work completed on the porch. I know a few of the different properties we've been working with have been having issues with getting contractors to do certain amounts of work. So the committee's aware as well, for the Kensington Terrace, which is Upton House. They did receive some funding to do the roof. They purchased the materials, but their contractor has delayed their project till next year.
Yeah.
So they're facing challenges as well. So I know that's been difficult for some of these smaller projects.
And yeah, the only thing with Upton is why I didn't do the tax rebate recommendation is because we did not do it last year. So just sort of carrying that forward. So it's sort of up to the committee if we want to carry forward that thing of, since no changes have been done and they haven't been done in a while. And some of the things are like simply cleaning up the gutter, as there have been plants growing in there for years.
Oh.
So that is one of the issues that we have, and that, so it wasn't recommended last year. If you want to recommend it, or we can see if maybe next year they'll have stuff and then we can add them back on. So it's sort of.
So to clarify,
Yeah.
they're not really meeting the criteria.
And they haven't been for a few
Yeah.
years. And so it's sort of the continuing issues of there, you can see in the one, there's a foundation that Frank has noticed for several years. And the vegetation growing in there. And so there are some issues like that. That haven't been addressed for a really long time, like with the porch. I think that one, it's a little bit more of a recent thing, but it's just another little addition.
Someone living here,
Yes.
I mean, if they're not meeting the criteria, then they don't get it. I noticed on the machine shop, 83 Huron.
Yeah.
It doesn't say recommended or not.
So the machine shop is, I went on the inspections in 2021 and I noticed a lot of issues with them. And none of those have been addressed. Like there is one piece, you can't quite see it in these pictures here, but you can see it in the folder of pictures that I have. Is there's a huge chunk of one of the rocks is actually breaking away, and it's sitting right there, and it could possibly fall on the sidewalk at any point. So that's a little bit of a health and safety issue I'm a little bit worried about. And on one of their windows, they have it stuffed with a piece of sponge, and the sponge actually goes to the inside of the building because it's in the big, huge machine shop area. So when you go
This
to
is
that,
the unused building.
no, this is the like this is the main building.
Restaurant.
Yes, where the sponges is where the big event room is, and you can actually
Okay,
see
yeah,
the sponge from the inside too.
Really?
Yes.
That is.
So it's that they haven't really addressed those things. And so I wasn't, I didn't really put forth my own recommendations. I sort of thought I could wait to see what you said, but just because some of them are a little bit of safety issues as well. And that it was noted since 2021 and they haven't really done anything. I was possibly leaning more towards no, but it's up to the rest of the committee, maybe what you think, because I wanted to get your input on that one.
No, because the rebate was designed for them to use the money to maintain the property. And if they're not maintaining the property, then you shouldn't get the tax rebate.
What is the total? I missed that.
I think it's 40%.
40%, and we send it up to be calculated to the tax department, so depending on the taxes, it's calculated off of that.
Okay, so do you want to go through these like on a case by case to see if people agree or like? How are you?
If you want to, I don't know how much time we have today,
I don't know.
but for the most part, those are the two big issues there. There are some, like with Dawson Block, they did have some other issues, but they are brand new. So
Okay.
they haven't had the time to address it.
So do you want to just go over the ones you had issues with then?
I pretty much the only one I had issues with was the Upton and then the machine shop. And so we've already decided on Upton. So now it's just with the machine shop.
Now Upton says tax rebate recommended, so that's 13. Am I looking at the right one here?
And that's what I got to.
115 Upton Road is the one we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Not Upton, Kensington Terrace.
No, Kensington Terrace, we had, when we were there, we were actually speaking with one of the property owners and he's actually doing, yeah, a lot of work himself. So that one we know is really good. They actually have the shakes sitting on their porch, all ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're really ready to go. But no, it's Upton Road.
The pictures move on to page 9.
Yeah.
Related to that property.
That's too bad, because they did a really good job restoring that house, and now they're just letting it go or what?
Yeah, we're not too sure with that one. But if anyone's had a chance to sort of look at the other ones and you have any questions or comments, concerns about them, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, if we want to have, make a decision on the machine shop.
So I'm clear.
Yeah.
Can I ask some questions about the machine shop? Of course. So 2022, it says property is well maintained. Okay, so what's changed?
The people who inspected it.
Okay,
So I went in 2021 and I see all the same issues. Some more of the bricks have fallen off. But it's more so that I guess last year they were a little bit more lenient with
Okay.
that.
okay, and so I'll come back to it, sorry. So 2021, they received it,
Yes,
2022, they received it.
Yeah.
2023, is that what we're deciding or
Yes.
24?
23.
It's 23 taxes.
Yeah, so it's actually where I was a year behind.
Okay.
So we do the inspections now and it's based off of what was paid in 2022 as a rebate, so. We're a year behind on what we pay on.
Okay, so the specific criteria to meet to get this tax rebate is that you have to be up to date with what we're asking you to maintain.
Yeah, and we might let it go for a year, just to sort of try to like get feelers out to get the work done. But if we've been noticing that the issue has been going on for several years, and there's no attempt whatsoever to sort of make those corrections.
Okay, so because in 22, it says here, aside from the properties well maintained, the rest, there are some corrections that still haven't been made.
Yeah.
Okay,
And in some cases, in what we've done in the past, usually the committee will say, like, if these aren't completed by next year, you will not receive a rebate. we've had those special letters sent out to properties where we see a pattern of work not being completed.
Like I had wanted to do that for the stairs for the hangar, but you were saying that they're working on it, so
Yeah.
that's fine.
It's in process.
Yeah, we could still put that in as a reminder in the letter.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Mhm.
And all the owners do receive a copy of the inspection, their inspection report along with the letter. And then sometimes there's the standard letter, if there's no issues, and a different letter for the properties where we have concerns that we really want to highlight.
What do you guys think? Does everyone else think?
Just what she recommended sounds perfect to me.
Do not recommend.
Do not recommend Upton and not recommend the machine shop.
Is
All the rest are
everyone,
good to go.
is everyone okay with that? Sarah, I guess. Stephanie,
Can you just reiterate not to recommend Upton and not recommend the machine shop?
so then we have the motion.
Okay, I'm just asking for a point of, I'm just asking for a point of clarification.
Yes, yeah, we want to recommend
clever.
all the properties, save for 115 Upton and the machine shop.
Okay, I support that.
And then, so do we need a motion for that specifically, or can it be added to sort of the big one?
We would, sorry.
I just got a quick question on 83 Huron. Will that include the administration building up front as well, right?
It doesn't include, the, like, the conservatory, which is like the administration building, because they're their own.
They're separate now.
Yeah.
They've got the, okay,
Yeah, so they weren't on the list.
they're not on the list at all. Then.
So this is only the main machine
Just
shop
the machine
building.
shop in behind. Okay, okay, yeah. So the administration building doesn't get a rebate? They haven't got a rebate?
No, so it's only the properties that apply, but the conservatory, due to its charitable status, is exempt from the property taxes.
Oh, okay.
And then, so that's why we never
Churches.
see churches on.
Okay,
there too.
yeah, that's right, okay. Okay, I'm good.
So I'll separate out the motion, so it would resolve to St. Marie Municipal Heritage Committee endorse the 2023 property inspection report and recommend to City Council that the designated heritage property tax rebates for the 2022 tax year be paid to the qualified owners of designated heritage properties enrolled in the program. 69 Church Street, 875 Queen Street, 864 Queen Street, 119 Woodward, 10 Kensington Terrace, 193 Pym Street, 358 to 366 Queen Street, 1048 Queen Street, 708 to 710 Queen Street. Is there any further?
Is this coming to council?
This, it would be the 30th. And further that an inspection report and letter be sent to the property owners outlining the recommendations.
All right, so can I have a mover for this motion?
Sure.
Okay, so we have Kelly, and can I get a seconder?
I can second here, Stephanie.
Perfect. All right, and then we have the, all in favor? Perfect. Okay. And then we have the Rotary Arch, update.
There's not a huge update of this item, so it was brought forward to the Rotary Club. Joel has been in the loop and they were bringing it forward to their meeting in October for discussion.
Okay, perfect. Now moving on to 5.3, we have the future Shunwalk site tour. And so now I will present to everyone, Harry Huskins here. So you can talk about yourself and the Shinwalk Site Tour.
You're going to let me talk about myself. How long does this meeting go on?
A little bit.
Good afternoon. I'm Harry Huskins. I'm with the Shinwalk Education Trust. I'm one of the appointees to the trust board from the Anglican Aboriginal Peoples Council. The trust itself comes out of the 1994 court order about the land and assets of the old residential school, and is made up of representatives of the Garden River and Batchewana First Nations, the Children of Shinwalk, which is the Alumni Association, and the Anglican Aboriginal Peoples Council. In terms of what I'm doing at the moment, that makes me a director, and I'm also vice president. Given the recent elections at Garden River, Chief Rickard, who's a very good friend, was not re-elected, and so the position of president is vacant at this point in time, but we'll be dealing with that once Garden River makes its committee appointments. I'm the both director of research and the acting administrator. I've been the acting administrator for a fair bit of time now, because as a trustee under Ontario law, of course, I can't be paid. And the board doesn't seem to be particularly enthusiastic to go down or pay somebody. In terms of my own work in this field, I have an MA in Canadian history with a dissertation on Algoma in the 19th century, and then the subsequent doctoral work at Oxford. I guess I'm here today basically because the trust has been putting a lot of time and effort into building our $18 million Anishinaabe Discovery Center on the south side of Queen Street, opposite the university site. Now we more or less have that under some control. And it's time to look at other things, one of which is the chapel, which was built in 1884, 1885, largely by the male students working out of the carpentry shop. And if it's agreeable to the committee, I can pass out some pictures here of that. There is work that needs to be done on the inside of the chapel, and I'm bringing words that probably you're not used to hearing, where I'm not coming asking for money. But it is a property designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. Therefore, I think it's particularly important to keep you as the local committee informed about what they're looking at. And the work that needs to be done is not so much as at this point in time as rehabilitative, but basically some renovations. And so there's this dicey thing of whether it comes under 26 and 27 and all of that kind of thing. As far as I'm concerned, we should be putting everything in front of you for your consideration, because we need your advice on things. The immediate things that need to be done in the chapel, in the last couple of months, I've had one of the local firms completely wire it and redo the lighting. But again, that's renovative of what already exists. What we need to do is, in the 1950s, asbestos tiling was put down on the floors, which Chris Tossell and the other architects tell us are basically a parquet with flooring and whatnot, so probably pretty beautiful. That needs to be taken up and out of there. The present worn carpeting, which was second or third hand, I'm told, when it actually went in there. There's also a 1975 donated organ that needs to go. We'd like to basically return the look of the inside of the chapel to the way it was about 1890, 1900. And we're very much doing this in conjunction with the Children of Shinwalk, the survivors who are partners at the trust board. But those like Shirley Horn, Jackie Fletcher, others, the leadership have fond memories, believe it or not, of the chapel, because it was the only thing on the site, because it was under the administration of the church, did not fall under government regulation. And therefore they can do things like sit with their relatives and speak the language and do things like that. So it's sort of as counter almost to the stereotype of such things, but it's particularly close to them. And so we'll be pursuing that as a joint endeavor, if you will. We'll be looking for outside grants. As you know, a year and a half ago, it was declared to be a National Historic Site. And that therefore, if it doesn't actually open doors, should leave them somewhat ajar for Heritage Canada and other funding. And you might well have some advice for that, for us on that too. This is a picture. I'll leave it with you and you can pass it along of E.F. Wilson, who built the school and so on, posing with his family in front of the chapel and posing in what is the middle now of Queen Street. Because of course, at that point in time, there was nothing but a corduroy log trail leading out in the general Garden River direction. These are a couple of pictures of the site as it looked at the time. In this first one, you'll see 3 men in a rowboat. They're actually in a place now that would be land, because at the back of the wall of the Discovery Center, the new building, that was the original riverbank, and everything else since then has been infall over the years. It was a rather uncontrolled site. And so contractors, including those who were working on university buildings or whatnot, just came there and dumped fill in, and it's created almost 8 acres of land there. And one of the things that we'll want to talk with the city about extensively as we go forward, that's one of the building itself. As you can see, it was the people in front, a fairly large building. And this is a very bad photograph of the chapel, but you can see the building in the background, the lich gate, the stone wall, which actually is in the middle of Queen Street now, and the church there. That is going to be, the city will have an obvious interest in that infilled land when we look at what we want to do in terms of development or anything else, because it's the last really undeveloped stretch along the St. Mary's River, and we want to be very careful of what we do, including, frankly, preserving the view from the river in terms of wooded sections and so on. So there's a lot of work before us that the trust has.
The residential school.
That was the original one, which is on the lawn where the present cairn is, in front of the present building that was built in 1933-34.
That one was torn down in about 1932.
Yeah, 32, 34, at the point in time that the federal government, in the midst of the Depression, was taking over the school because they were in severe financial difficulty, and built 12 similar buildings across the country. The other things that you might be interested in terms of the background is over the years I've worked extensively with the local Métis Council, including in my time as the executive archdeacon of the Diocese of Oklahoma and as the executive officer of the Anglican Church in the province. The transfer of what was known locally as St. John's by the Casino, opposite the ATM relay school, to the local Métis council, it being the original Métis the burial ground there. However, that touches on the other work that we're doing at the moment. We're about to bring out a history of the Métis community here in Sault Ste. Marie. Robin Izzard, who's the senior staff member over at the Wishart Library, will be doing publishing on that, so we'll have tight control over it and so on. And of course, we'll be providing copies and whatnot for you here. It leads to another point. I was just talking with Hamish Curry at Precious Blood this morning, and we'll have some detail in a meeting next week. Opposite Queen Street, opposite Precious Blood, a little up, where there's a half a building and now a parking lot, was the original cemetery for what was known as Sacred Heart at the time. And it was subsequently paved and built over with may or may not have been complete exhumations. And the exhumations were moved further up Great Northern Road and eventually out to the municipal cemetery. But the local Métis Council wants to do some thorough work on determining just exactly what the history of that is. It's raising no questions about being an unregulated cemetery or anything else at this point in time. There are no legal problems involved in that. I should also say that I've got a master's degree in law. So therefore, I know, among other things, to always avoid any illegal controversy. If it's helpful to you, you're not going to be able to show these to people, but you can provide copies of them. Well, in terms of the history of the Métis community, this is a map made in 1846 by the Deputy Provincial Land Surveyor, Alexander Liddell. And right from the fort down to what is now past the Shingwalk site, it lays out what were all the Métis strip farms, including and included in here is the site of what was the cemetery at the time. Some work needs to be done. Many of the Métis employees of the Hudson Bay Company perhaps were not faithful adherents to the Roman Catholic religion at the time. Were buried at what is now St. John's or was St. John's, and the others here. So we get some working out to do there. But as you can see, that it was a very extensive network. What happened was Vidal and Ironside, others for the Indian Department had assured the Métis that in fact they would be given grant to their land. But the government at the time was in the midst of some chaos, frankly, reflective of the U.S. House of Representatives at this point in time in the United States. That assurance was never lived up to, and instead the Métis were displaced. They're in conversation with the federal and provincial governments now about that. That doesn't affect the city directly. This is the town plot that Vidal drew up, which is the present downtown Sault Ste. Marie. And you can see what was involved there. You can provide more of that in background. I don't want to take up too much time here. Depending on who you were in the history of Sault Ste. Marie, Mr. Wilson is either a great hero, as in the 49th Regiment and everything else, going back to it, or Joseph Wilson is a great villain involved in displacement because he was the most fervent advocate of that. Probably what did the Métis in most was just before the signing of the 1850 Huron-Robinson Treaty, the jurisdiction was changed from the Indian Department to the land, the Crown Lands Commission, and the minister involved in that. The Indian Department continued to back the Métis in terms of getting their land grants. However, Mr. Wilson was the local Crown Lands agent, and the Crown Lands Commission did not have a separate budget of its own. It paid for its operating expenses, including his salary, by the sale of Crown land. Yes, we won't go any further into that in this meeting. So as in much of history, it depends on where you're standing and how you're viewing it as to whether Joseph Wilson is a hero, the founder of the 49th, if you will, or whether he is a villain. In any event, he isn't with us any longer, so we can leave that with you. I will leave the pictures and everything else here. We will keep you updated certainly as we go along with all of these things. And Cole can, if any of you are interested, can certainly provide you from the museum with copies of any of this material. And anytime that I or anyone else in the trust can be helpful to you in any way, just let us know.
So with, especially the photos of the, Shimwalk, site, so both the, residential school and the chapel, we will be sending those on to you, when we send out, sort of the notice for the site tour. So, with this, Harry has offered to give us a tour of the chapel, and Krista McCracken has also offered to give us a tour of sort of just the whole residential school site. I think we should probably do it this month before the weather gets bad, as we will have to be outside for a little bit. So I guess it would probably be best if you sent out a doodle poll when we might be able to find the best time.
Did you want to look at later in October, and then do you still want to proceed with a November meeting, or do the late October site tour in place of a November meeting?
If we have business to take care of, then I'm happy to do both.
Okay. Okay, and if there isn't, then we can just do it alone. So I will send out a poll for the week of 23rd of October. So we can do the site tour. It will be posted on the corporate calendar. The media would be invited to attend, as well as any council that may want to participate. As it's not streamed, we need to ensure that there is no discussion that forwards the business of the committee. It's just the tour, and we'll take it from there.
So unless you have any questions, I'll leave you to go through a business if that's okay. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this. And as I said, anytime that we can be of any help in one of the things that is under discussion, we're resolving certain matters, but the conservation vault at the Discovery Center is one of the most advanced facilities in the country at this point in time in terms of climate control and everything else. And we will certainly, it's very quick to work with as the poll is. And we're not looking at any large set in stone policy or anything, but it just makes sense to look at in terms of the most valuable documents and artifacts in this specific area as to the best place to conserve them. We're finishing the conservation lab out there. That's another $2 million investment. And looking at hiring the appropriate staff and so on. So it makes a lot of sense to sort of keep everybody in conversation about where the best places are to put things in the mission. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Thank you all.
I have a question.
Sure.
About that. So is Shimwalk Kinamagi not the place that you would normally store documents?
That is the building.
That is the building.
The building is owned by
Set.
the Shimwalk Education Trust,
Yep.
and Shimwalk Kinamagi is a tenant of the building.
Yes, so but that's where you would normally store. You said there's some things, sorry, maybe I'm misunderstanding, in the chapel that you need stored. Is that what you said?
I didn't intend, if I.
Oh,
I didn't
I'm sorry.
intend to do that.
Yeah, I was confused. Okay,
Okay, yeah.
okay.
No, in the chapel, we're looking at work on the floor and probably some plastering and painting of the walls.
Okay, cool.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Right on.
So next we have the subcommittee and task force updates. So there's nothing new with that. So then we can move on to new business. So first up, we have the museum bell. So I'm not sure if everybody sort of heard over the summer, but our bell was tagged twice. So it was not good with that. And it sort of got us thinking that we should be doing maybe a little bit more to protect the bell. And with it, in this conservation plan, you can kind of see how the weather has sort of started to affect it. When it was stored on top of the museum, it did have a little like roof over top of it to protect it. So part of this conservation would be sort of creating that roof on it again to protect it from the snow. It doesn't have that snow load. It'll be a little bit more protection from not as much direct sunlight, and hopefully a little bit of a barrier to people that want to take it as well. So in the proposal, you can see that we do have a conservator who specializes in metal. So she will be able to do the work for us. And so this whole sort of proposal, like the first big half of it sort of goes in all about the bell, its makeup, things like that, to sort of show how like how we have to proceed forward with its conservation. And so you can see that there has been a lot of patina damage and things like that. So we are going to have to do a lot of sort of completely removing the patina to sort of even it out, because the patina is sort of like that protective barrier. So we're going to basically remove that to even it out, so that we can then put a protective layer on top of it. And she's outlined sort of what the best protectors would be for the bell. And then also saying that that's sort of just one step, but the second step of protection would be the little house. So you can see the breakdown of sort of the costs that we would be looking at, sort of the costs of the conservation, and then the costs for the little house there. The sort of pricing on the little house could be adjusted, just depending. It wasn't super expertly drawn up, but it was sort of just quickly whipped up there, and so showed estimate of costs. And so as the bell is sort of like jointly owned by like the Municipal Heritage Committee and the museum, it's sort of up to us to also say, yes, go ahead with it, but then also we would need help paying for that conservation. And then so we would accept it, and then it would have to go to council. So does anybody have any questions?
I just got one comment. I love the idea, it looks perfect. The only thing, I wonder if we could cover it with plexiglass, so we don't get trained again.
So
Like, it's easier to
That-
replace a sheet of plexiglass.
yeah, so we were sort of thinking about it, if we add the plexiglass, you wouldn't want to basically create a whole plexiglass like box and put it in, because then you're going to basically create an oven. But if we put plexiglass around
Just around the.
like the wood, like the wooden four sides, you would still
Yeah.
have airflow,
Yeah.
so that the bell could breathe and that. So there would be a little bit added extra cost with that, but if that is something that you would like to go ahead with, we can. I know our conservator would really appreciate that, because she basically just wants to like completely seal it and protect it, because she's like, oh, artifact. So yes, and so with the bell, yes, it is an artifact, and by putting it outside, we wanted to have it in the front garden, because we wanted to sort of show that history of the original building, and that bell and clock, which was basically the whole timepiece for the city that kept the city moving. So it's an important part of history that we would like to keep out front, but also ensure that it's better kept. Yes, Stephanie.
Sorry, I struggle with Zoom. I'm not as great as other functions there on technology. But first of all, I just wanted to acknowledge like Leela's work on the report. I think it's like really comprehensive. So I really appreciate that it went through what they went through. One thing I wouldn't mind, I think if we're looking at I think first of all, I think conservation plan overall, I think is a good thing for something like this. But what I would offer is that the budget, and I would suspect, and Ange, I don't want to step all over your toes, but I would suspect that the budget might require some longevity to it. So what I see here is sort of like the upfront cost, but I don't necessarily see what the maintenance cost is for something around the conservation plan. So I think before we recommend the plan going forward to council, I would suggest that here's what it is upfront cost, but then here's what maybe the maintenance of it over, say, 5 years is, because I think that might help benefit ourselves to know that we're going to have to likely approve something going into the future. But then it also helps council make a little bit more of an informed decision if and when we recommend this going forward, I believe. Is that fair?
So, do you think there's going to be maintenance? I don't think.
Not really. If we do the little cupola or little house, whatever it is, and then we also add in the plexiglass will also really greatly reduce the amount of vandalism that happened, because if they take the plexiglass, it's a lot easier to like just scrape it off the plexiglass. So we can actually use a scraper and scrape it off or whatever, because we don't have to worry about damaging it because it's not an earth. It's just plastic.
So then maybe that just
yeah, we could add
no,
a part to that to sort of state that there would not be too many long-term costs. There would probably just be like little minor upkeep costs to the cupola, but we might even be able to cover that under our budget with the museum. Like it might not be too much to protect it for ourselves.
So I think then that answers the question, and I think it's just an important kind of piece of the information puzzle, just to say that there's like.
You probably need to have a grant application brought out to the next.
Sorry, I'm gonna say a significant maintenance cost.
The other thing that we would need to factor in is the cost to build. The materials are there for the little cupola, but not the actual cost for construction, or is that being done internally?
I mean, it could probably be done internally, like it's not,
So that's impressive. You can do that. So.
yeah, well, I don't know how much labor there would be to actually build it, because I'm pretty sure like our staff could sort of do it. And my dad would help too, because he's that one that actually drafted up this cost. So he would volunteer to help build it. And then one of our curators build everything for the site too, so we could build it. So that would be a great cost too, but also if Will is writing up the grant, if he wants to, I don't know. I'll also add in the cost that I really don't think we would need to hire like a company or whatever to build it. Because there's nothing that this is supporting. This is basically just a little roof that's just going on top of it.
Oh, so like, can somebody just live there?
That one, no, like it would be like drilled into the thing, or it would be like embedded into the garden.
be.
I think it's gonna be a fair amount of work. But like, if, yeah, I mean, let's figure that part out.
Well, and I think that if you take a look at what that is, with the grant application, if the museum is willing to contribute those costs. Or time or whatever, that could be allocated as part of that contribution to the overall cost of the project, right? You know, it may get easier if there's enough of clearance on either side, just to be able to use the little bolted hold things for the 4x4s right into the
Yeah.
concrete base that's already poured. And then that way it's not gonna be something that you can lift or remove because you'll want the 4 posts to put the plexiglass on anyway. But it'll also deal with any birds going underneath there as well, so.
Yeah, thinking that's the roof.
And then the other thing too is there is a little sign that goes with the bell. You can see the little, where is it? The little picture there that sort of shows the house. Here in the middle on page 41. That little snippet is taken from the little panel that we have for the bell. It has fallen off the wall, so we would actually affix that to the house so that it's a little bit more upfront and hopefully a little bit more secure. Yeah, so if we're okay with this, then I guess the next step would be doing the grant. Okay. So do we have to approve this then if Will's gonna do the grant?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. And then, so next we have the correspondence.
I think everybody's receiving Bill Heritage News and the various newsletters.
Okay, so then, our next meeting, would sort of either like, sort of be the one in, October, but it's, if we are gonna keep the one in November, the one in October doesn't necessarily have to be a proper meeting, so don't feel terribly obligated to come if you really can't leave work. But it is sort of an important part of history to sort of go and learn about that.
Yeah, so the October meeting would be a site tour, so no business would be conducted. And then any actual business of the committee would take place November 1st.
Yeah. Cool. So any last questions, comments, or concerns? No, okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Angela, seconded by Kelly. All right, so resolved that the committee meeting is now adjourned at 12:58. Okay, cool. All in favor? Yes. Perfect.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Virginia.